Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another mini reading. This morning, I'd like to take a look at the renowned artist and Renaissance man, Leonardo da Vinci. It has the record for selling the highest, the most valued painting in the world. So he's pretty much considered, I mean, by that estimation, we could say he's basically the greatest artist who ever lived. When I was a kid, when I was young, I used to like to draw a lot, but I was very technical in my drawings, and I would copy Leonardo da Vinci to the best of my ability. And he was my favorite to sort of emulate, to copy. So just a little side note, he was a real inspiration for me. I think his drawings and his paintings are just the best. He's like the Bach of painting and drawing, basically. I mean, he's on par with Bach, in my view. As always, check out my website, macroastrology.com, to book a reading, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you like this content. I'm going to share the screen now. Alrighty. I mean, first thing to notice right off the bat, well, let me just go over his birthday. So 14th of April, 1452. You have to write Julian after that because the Gregorian calendar that we use didn't go back that far. I don't know when it stopped, but so this is Julian. And I don't even know the difference. I just know that that's what you got to do when you're going back that far. 9:40 p.m., Vinci, Italy. So, I mean, just look at the symmetry. Just look at the symmetry. And I didn't pull up the graphic of the man in the circle with the square, but you can just basically see why he was such a, he loved the symmetry and sacred geometry, because this chart is basically sacred geometry. I mean, look at these 3 grand trines, not 1, not 2, but 3, right? Fire, earth, and air. He was just missing water grand trine. Then we would have had, like, I mean, he still has a lot of water. He's got such a well-balanced chart, and that's why he's a Renaissance man. Look how well this spread out. But like, look at these. Look at the symmetry here. Look at it sideways, right? This is the front, and it's perfectly aligned with his ascendant too, which is, I mean, it's unreal. And then you see this, and then this repeating over here, and then you even see this line repeating here, 24, 22, and then even this, Pluto and the sun. I mean, it's almost perfect. So you can see why he was obsessed with symmetry, right? Because his chart is the stars in the heavens when he was born were forming this perfect symmetry in the sky. And that's amazing. I mean, you don't just have, that doesn't just happen. You can look at any chart, you will not see this, right? So, I mean, that's really important to understand. When looking at a chart, just look at the basic shapes it's making. Look how many blue lines, very little red lines, right? Blue lines are harmonious. These are all trines and sextiles. It's fantastic. It really is. All right, so Sun is in the 5th house, the house of creativity in Taurus. And it's not burning any planets, right? When a planet gets very close to the sun, it's considered combust, and it has a irritating effect on that planet. It burns the significance. All his planets are far away, which is great. So Sun in the 5th house in Taurus, right? Right away, we can say that this is a person who is creative and loves beauty and the arts. Taurus is the sign of beauty, ruled by Venus, and Venus is in Taurus here in the 6th house, which I'll get to. But just alone, Sun in Taurus in the 5th house is creativity and beauty and sensuality. you know, children are often seen by this house. I don't think he had any children. But just in general, just a sense of like fun, creativity, games, joyousness, beauty, good for education. The fifth house is good for everything. It's good for confidence. It trines the ascendant. Actually, no, I mean, this because this is out of sign, so it's not trining the ascendant. It's actually forming an inconjunct to the ascendant. The fifth house normally, this is trining the ascendant. But anyway, yeah, it's a great great house for an artist to have, especially, but for anyone, it does very well here. Sun in the fifth house, it's good. And just to go do sun, moon, and ascendant like that, the way I usually do, just so establish a base. Moon conjunct Jupiter, fantastic combination. It's not in Cancer, but we see this in, you know, I just did two people, Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain. Phenomenal results, Jupiter, because moon is the emotions, it's the heart, right? And the mind, the inner mind. And if our mind is good, then our life is good, generally speaking, right? There can be other factors, but we have like great influence and you know, a happy inner content being. I mean, obviously, you know, there's a lot of other influences for different people, but Jupiter's at home in Pisces. It's not as strong as it would be in Cancer because the moon rules Cancer, but still great, fantastic. Jupiter is the great benefic. It expands and brings, you know, generosity, abundance. It just brings benefit, and Jupiter's very good-willing, so it makes a good-willing heart, good-hearted person, right? Somebody who cares, somebody who's generally happy and joyous and generous. Jupiter's very generous. Jupiter rules Pisces, like I said, so this is a very Pisces is highly creative, highly imaginative, and it's in the third house, so skills of the hand. I mean, he's probably the greatest draftsman to ever live. His drawings are absolutely beautiful, like absolutely fantastically beautiful, and that's this, you know, Jupiter, moon, and Pisces. We see this beauty and this skill, this tremendous skill and beauty. Now, moon is ruling, forgot to do this, sun is ruling the ninth house, so that's making him very religious as well. Very religious, very philosophical, and very high-minded. The moon is ruling the eighth house, bringing it into the third house of skills of the hand, courage, self-determination, friends, neighbors, communication, speaking, writing, that sort of thing. So his interest, his mind is pulling from very deep places. Eighth house is the house of death and rebirth, sex and the occult. Also can be a house of misfortune, you know, death and rebirth, crises. So it's up and down. So his moods tend to go up and down, but he's also interested in the darker side of things, the darker side of life. And I can't remember if it was him or not, but I recall, and I think it was probably a lot of these artists at that time because technology was lacking. They did not have the internet. But they would go to the morgue or the cemetery or somehow, and they would acquire a dead body. These artists, I know this because I studied art. And they would cut the body open, and they would basically do autopsies and study the musculature. And that's why when you see them drawing, and they're basically drawing the musculature inside the body because they know what it looks like. And you can see these very graphic drawings, very detailed, right? You see that with Leonardo da Vinci. He's like, you know, like all these poor people in all these crazy poses. And he's showing off his knowledge of the musculature inside because he's drawing basically dead people, eighth house stuff, right? Crazy, but yeah, true. Now Jupiter is his ascendant lord, so that's very good. Moon benefits Jupiter, Jupiter benefits Moon. And Jupiter was also ruling the fourth house. It's in the fourth sign. So that's good. That describes his early childhood. Even though I think he grew up very poor, and somehow it wasn't so bad for him. I mean, Pisces is a house of, fantasy and illusion, delusion. So something about his childhood was very mystical and creative. But yeah, it's very strong. Like I said, Sagittarius ascendant, making it an aspect square to Jupiter, but still it's making contact to its ruler in Pisces, so it's got a lot of dignity here. All right. And just going around, Mars is in Aquarius, pretty much approaching the third house cusp. And this point, Mars is physical action, but it's also technical skills, and it rules over the body in general. Like Mercury rules over the hands, skills of the hands, but Mars rules over the technical skills of the whole body, mechanical skills. It has a lot to do with intelligence, just as Mercury does. And here he's becoming very scientific and very mechanical. And we know that because he did all these mechanical drawings, very scientific, right? With all the, flying machines, and he was, an inventor and a scientist, as well as a beautiful artist. The guy was a Renaissance man. I mean, he defined Renaissance man, what it meant to be a Renaissance man, right? Incredible technical skills here. Technical, mechanical, scientific in Aquarius. And with Saturn ruling Aquarius and the second house of knowledge and wealth and assets, he's bringing that to prominence. It's in the 10th house, 11th sign, but 10th house. So it's still very prominent, right? 10th quadrant house. So he's becoming renowned for his mechanical, technical skills, his drawing skills. And he did gain fame and notoriety while he was alive, right? So that's being seen here. Mars is ruling his 5th house and his 12th house. So those are 2 creative houses. So very scientifically creative with Mars here. It's a very scientific, creative Mars. Mercury ruling 10th and 7th houses. So again, this is his fame, his notoriety. It's coming to the 4th house, but 5th sign. So we're mixing things up a little bit because it's the 5th sign. So like if you look at whole sign houses, that would be the 5th house, but quadrant house is the 4th. So 4th and 5th influences. Mercury does okay in Aries. It's fine in Aries. Aries is a young sign, so it brings out the more analytical, logical side of Mercury. And this is his recognition, his fame, both 10th and 7th deal with, 10th will deal with how you're seen by the world, but 7th deals with your communication with the world, right? Your ability to connect with the world, with others in relationship, one-on-one, but also your ability to connect with the world, right? Musicians need a strong 7th house, also like people who are speaking to the public, people who want to connect to the public at large need a strong 7th house. So here he's able to be seen and heard by the public in his home. He's bringing it home and bringing 5th house creativity as well, right? That's the Mars aspect. But it's also squared by the nodes. And I forgot to mention when I was doing Osho's reading that he also had a square to nodes, and I didn't even cover it, but it didn't matter really. I mean, it was fairly obvious anyway. So much going on in his life. Anyway, Da Vinci has a square to the nodes, and with the nodes, do is like, if there's a planet on the south node, that shows skills that you're born with. If there's a planet conjunct the north node, that shows something that you have to develop in this life, or that you're going to be compelled to develop in this life, something that you're going to be drawn to, obsessed with developing this life. If it's a square to the nodes, it's a 10th aspect, but it's bringing in some of both past life skills and something that we need to continue to develop. So it's like unfinished karma, if you will. So Mercury, the planet of hands of skills of the hands, as well as communication, writing, speaking, and the houses it rules, 10th and 7th. So there's some karma that needs to play out in this life. And what I've noticed is that sometimes it'll become like very prominent. It's different from the North Node where you're just obsessed with that planet. There's some like time frame where something destined happens, something that was like pre-planned, you know, before birth or something like that. I believe in that stuff, but at the same time, it's like, I can't verify that that's what this actually means. So I just say that lightly. I just want to qualify that statement. I say that very lightly, but it seems to show some sort of destiny within this life where the person is meant to have something happen. And this shows recognition because 10th house, 7th house, fame, notoriety, skills of the hands, creativity at home, drawing, thinking, intellect, writing, all that. And that's what he was known for. He was known for his notebooks, for his sketching, as well as his paintings, you know. So, and again, he's so diverse, right? So it's not just one thing. He's going to be known for so many different things, right? Painting, drawing, notebooks, inventions, science, sacred geometry, right? And he was also into like crazy woo-woo stuff. Like there was even people tried to make a connection with him and aliens, which I can't say that it's not true, right? But he was wide open-minded about all the hidden secrets of life, all the woo-woo, scary, like taboo, you know, like forbidden stuff. With Uranus in the 8th house in Cancer, like just deep occult mysteries of life. He could go there. Pluto is also in the 8th house, although it's in the 9th sign. It's still influencing that. And Pluto is very strong in his chart. Let me just jump over here. We don't have, well, Pluto's out of bounds. So there's no really out of bounds planets except for Pluto. Pluto's out of bounds. That's in the 8th, 9th, and it's part of his fire trine. So it brings tremendous confidence and depth to his being, to his personality. Look at that again. No planet's stationary either, but his Mercury is very slow. I don't know about the others because they're all slower than Mercury. I just know Mercury so far that a 29-minute Mercury is slow. It's not super slow, but it is slow, right? And that adds to his intellectual capacity. That makes him a much more brilliant thinker. Not to brag, but mine is slower. But there are people who have slower Mercuries than mine, so it's all relative. And I don't have anywhere near this harmony that he has, which is fantastic, right? And Saturn, by the way, Saturn is exalted in Libra. Venus, we didn't even get to Venus. Venus is at home in Taurus in the 6th house. Venus is what we love to do, like on a daily, like just in general. It's what we love. It's our pleasure. It's our leisure. It's our joy. It's our romance. Our fun. It's our sense of beauty and artistry. It's just what we're gravitated towards. What we'd be doing if like we didn't have to worry about like money and survival and things like that. And so it's at home in Taurus, and Taurus is the sign of beauty above all the other signs. I mean, Sagittarius is very beautiful in its own way. So is Pisces, so is Cancer, so is Leo. I mean, so is Virgo and Libra. But really, beauty, I think, is at home in Taurus. and so is Venus. Um, and this shows just a love for daily beauty, daily beautification, a love for food as well, a love for sensuality, a love for all the Taurian things. He loved his creature comforts, his daily life, and this is a very good combination, because if Venus is in its own sign in the sixth house, this keeps health and conflicts, enemies at bay, because it's a very strong house, and this is the house of conflicts and enemies and health and sickness. So that's strengthening all that, strengthening the sixth house attributes, making him work hard. The sixth house is a house of daily routines. So it's making him work hard in art, right? He's drawing every day. He's painting every day. He's doing it out of daily routine habit. It's his daily habit to just get on the paper and draw and paint and make things beautiful. And he becomes a master by doing that. Chiron's in the seventh in Gemini, so his relationships are not so ideal. They probably suffer a lot, but he was not known to be a relationship kind of guy. If he were like a counselor or a healer, he could have helped the sick or the wounded, but that wasn't his thing either, right? And because he wasn't attracting, Chiron is not going to attract healthy people to you, especially not at first. It's going to attract sick and wounded people, and it's also going to make him somewhat rejected by others, right? On that level. I don't think he had any female suitors. I don't know, but at least not prominent ones. So that's interesting. But it doesn't have any bad aspects. So it wasn't like a sore point for him. It's not like a sticking point or anything like that. South node's in the seventh, but approaching the eighth. So at least when he was younger, relationships were probably more prominent. And this is drawing in the moon, so tying into the deep mysteries of life, the death and rebirth, occult, macabre, taboo interests, and then later, much more notoriety with Saturn up here, self-interest, self-development, self-mastery, discipline, also security, wealth as he got older. You know, not too big of a deal. What else? Difficult aspects. I mean, hardly any. But Pluto to the Sun square. Pluto to the Sun square. I think his father was missing from birth, and that makes sense because Pluto's here in the eighth house, so house of death and rebirth. So having creating adding a missing element to his father. But he was an apprentice with another artist. I think it's Verrocchio. I'm not sure. Verrocchio, maybe. But there could have been some abuse. You know, this guy could have been hard on him. I don't think it was too bad. Why? Because just, you know, he's got such a harmonious chart. And it is in the eighth house, but it's in Leo, and Leo's powerful. And so, yeah, I mean, some domineering, some dominating. He was probably subservient when he was young, or needed to be, because whoever was looking after him was kind of, you know, heavy-handed and abusive potentially, but I don't think it was a big deal. There's just too many good aspects that it wouldn't have, you know, it wasn't like multiplying negative factors. There was too many healthy things going on that kept him, his life and everything buoyant, you know, positive. There's a square from the ascendant to the moon and Jupiter, but that's not really bad either, because these are both benefics. So that quickly turns positive. Squares from Jupiter, especially, and also the moon, I think, are just generally not that bad for whatever they touch. Squares to the moon can be bad, but I think this is fine. So what else? Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces, so it's bringing him notoriety from early in age. Early on, he was just very successful because it's so prominent. It's conjuncting his MC. Virgo, in MC in Virgo, Mercury, it just gives them a critical eye, which every artist needs. Every artist needs something like a good Virgo placement, strong Virgo, so they can really see clearly their own artwork. They're not gonna, you know, delude themselves in fantasy, you know, putting out something that's might be highly creative, but it's not honed enough, not refined enough. And Virgo, that's what Virgo does, brings that criticality so that they can, you know, really see what's good and what's not good. Because creativity alone is just not enough. It's not enough. That's Pisces. We need the opposite in Virgo, right? Or, you know, Leo and Aquarius. Aquarius is the scientific thinking, the, you know, more analytical. Leo's the more creative, but these are more well-rounded. This is primarily the creative and the critic axis. Pisces being the creative, Virgo being the critic, and the creative needs the critic, and the critic needs the creative. They complement each other and complete each other. That's basically it. I mean, this is a fantastic chart. Oh, one more thing. This is asteroid Pallas Athena conjunct ascendant, and this is only really important when it's conjunct something, you know, prominent: Sun, Moon, ascendant, or Mercury, or Mars. I would also consider, or the nodes, or any planet, Saturn too. But it's one of the things it deals with is pattern recognition. So he was very aware of patterns, and we could see that the symmetry in both in his chart and in his artwork. Like he was hiding codes. You know, there's that eighth house thing again, like the mystery, the secrets. You know, people try to read codes in his paintings, like the Last Supper and all the other things. And here he was excellent at, you know, both the secrets, you know, hiding things, as well as patterns, putting patterns together. And then Mars also rules the 12th house. So again, that the secrets and hiding things. So yeah, it's very likely that he was hiding codes within his paintings. Very much so. I believe that. And master of patterns and pattern recognition, understanding how patterns work together, sacred geometry, things like that. We see that again here with this incredible. I mean, this is the most, I'm just going to, out of every chart I've ever seen, this is the most symmetrical chart, beautifully symmetrical chart I've ever seen, and the most grand trines as well. It's this chart is basically a work of art. It's like a Leonardo painting, right? What else? Okay, Mercury is opposite Saturn. So that's a potentially difficult aspect, and it shows maybe some learning disabilities when he was young. Because Saturn restricts and slows, but Saturn is exalted in Libra. So it's not so bad, right? If this was a, you know, in a more difficult sign, if it was in Aries, that would be a difficult sign. But it is looking at Aries here. So I imagine early on there was some challenges. He had some challenges. He had some issues. He had some things to work through that eventually, you know, Saturn makes mastery. Saturn creates mastery because it just makes you work harder, and it creates a lot of fear and insecurity, but you just have to work through it. And then eventually that hard work creates the mastery. So yeah, eventually, I mean, it didn't take him long. Didn't take him very long to master this, but initially there probably was some issues with his learning, with his speaking, writing, drawing, things like that. But yeah, other than that, like just so much potential. I mean, look at all these trines. There's so much harmony, so much giftedness. I could go through all these trines, but it's just like, it's just too much. I mean, who cares? We can just see like, it's just all complementary, all benefiting each other, all doing great things, right? That's pretty much it for Leonardo da Vinci, the master, the Renaissance master, right? The guy who made the most, artistic masterpieces out of anyone. The Mona Lisa, the Last Supper. Um, so, all right, that's it for now, guys. Don't forget to go to my website, macroastrology.com, and book a reading. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy this content. And I will see you again soon.